Okay, hey, this is Brent Leary, and with me right now is Chris Connolly. Chris is a VP of Product Marketing for Genesys, and Genesys just put out a really interesting study on, I like this, what do consumers really think about customer service? Might have some interesting findings here. But Chris, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Brent. It's good to be with you today.
Okay, so before we jump in and start talking about the survey, give me a little of your personal background.
Oh, wow. So, as you might tell from the accent, originally from Australia, but now camped out in the US for the last 5 years or so. Spent most of my life in and around this business. Started off working for a bank when I left school and was slipped into the customer service world there, and then progressed my way through a systems integrator that was a partner of Genesys, and then I saw the light probably about 8 years ago and joined Genesys out of Australia, which has been a great time. So, we have a lot of fun. For me personally, I love to cook. I think we try and use that analogy in my team a lot. We're all sort of master chefs in our own little domain, but we're all great at making one piece of the meal, but when we come together, we have a bit of a banquet. So, for me, I've got a little 2-year-old boy that's born here in the States, and so I'm loving living in North Carolina right now.
Very cool. Very close to Atlanta, so it's nice to see a southerner with a little bit of a different accent, if you know what I mean. So, for those who may not know Genesys enough, or as well as we'd like them to know, tell us a little bit about what Genesys does.
Sure. So Genesys has been around for about 27 years, focused on customer experience software. They started many, many years ago with a completely different model to thinking about how to engage with consumers with what is now called CTI, or computer telephony integration, sitting on top of other people's phone systems. And they were the first software-only business, so no hardware. In the days when hardware was cool and everyone was doing both, Genesys was bucking that trend and being a software-only business. And it's continued to do that today. We're a software business that operates on-premise, in cloud, the combination of the two. We operate our own clouds for contact center software. We also offer software for our mid-market and enterprise customers that allow them to run that in their own premises as well. So we like to touch on the entire customer journey from the very first moment that a customer becomes aware of your brand and is navigating through the website and that part of the customer journey. We're increasingly applying artificial intelligence to that part of the experience. All the way through to then connecting with a brand, either with a human or a virtual assistant or a bot. And then we've got some smart technology that matches the right consumer to the right employee within the workforce. We call that predictive routing. And then the tail end of that is it's all about the employee at the end of the day. So providing tooling on their desktop so that they can operate more effectively, more efficiently, with the plethora of CRM tools that are out there and systems. And then what wraps around all this is great analytics that allow businesses to really understand the behaviors not only of their customers but also of their workforce and try and provide insights to that. So a large portfolio. I think we've got 1,519 different product SKUs that are bundled into 3 different platforms. But increasingly, we're seeing a convergence of customer experience software and CRM technology, and we sort of sit in that niche space of connecting the contact center with the rest of the customer experience.
So tell us a little bit about the general purpose of the study, who was involved in terms of respondents, and why Genesys decided to do this.
Sure. So this consumer insight study is something that we've done for the first time, and we love data at Genesys. We love understanding what is happening and providing that back to our customers and to the industry as a whole of getting a pulse on what's really happening, because we hear a lot of myth and opinion and conjecture out there, but really when it comes down to it, consumers are often in the right? And we went out to 3,000 consumers in the last 6 months, about 1,000 per country. We chose some specific countries, US, UK, and Germany this time around. We asked, I think, about 25 different questions to elicit some responses on what their experiences truly are with brands. We found some very interesting results. And that the reason that we do this is we want to first understand how customers are thinking, what they're trying to do, but more importantly, also being able to share that data back to our customers so they can help set their own strategies when it comes to engaging with customers as well.
So what were some of maybe the top 2 or 3 takeaways that came out of this?
Well, the number one for me is that probably consumers hate chatbots less than you might think, and that is certainly the headline of one of the pieces that we've put out there, which is surprising, especially today. Chatbots have exploded in the last couple of years. You love them, you hate them. You might have interacted with them, you might not have interacted with them. I guess from my experience, as a consumer, I've had some terrible experiences, and if you ask me to guess, I'd probably say that 50% of consumers would hate it, and it's not anywhere near that. It's actually really, really low.
It's like only 1 out of 8. It's 12.5%. I mean, that's amazing.
That's exactly right. It is amazing, right? So what we found was, whilst there are some terrible experiences, and I think it's incumbent upon all of us to make that better, people like choice, and they like convenience. And if you can provide a bot experience that is that operates at a level that's 24 hours a day, that is convenient and accessible to the consumer, they'll probably use it, right? And that's a good thing for business. It's lower cost to operate. It's a great thing for the consumer. They don't have to wait for someone to be available on the other end. But what we also found was that people also like choice very much. And so when it comes to a difficult scenario, when it comes to something that is critical to them, they want to get to a human, they want to get there quickly, and they don't want to repeat themselves. And that's just 101 customer experience. So I guess, from my view, we'll talk about this earlier, I had to run away from Hurricane Irma about 2 years ago, and I got a phone call in the middle of the night from the airline saying my flight was cancelled. And I scrambled to get online to book another flight. I tried every avenue that I could. And every time I got to an automated system, I got really frustrated because I was like, I'm panicked. I just want to talk to a human. And I ended up talking to a human at the end of the day. They got me to where I needed to go. But that dynamic of give me choice, but don't make it always an automated experience is something that we found in this sort of responses.
Yeah, and it seems like one of the overarching themes is people still want to have the phone, and they want to have a human, like you just said, and the importance of having, I don't know, it's important to have a good experience, but it's like critical not to have a bad experience, it sounds like.
It is, and probably no secret that looking at the different demographic data, if there is a bad experience, if someone does have a bad experience, they're likely to share it, and depending on the age bracket, that happens in a couple of different ways. So what we found is, I think it was over 35-year-olds and up, were very likely to tell a friend, tell a partner, tell someone, but it's usually connected in their sphere of human-human contact, versus the younger generations, younger demographics, they're going to share that. They're going to put that on social media. They're going to put it on WhatsApp. They're going to maybe not put it on Facebook because they're moving away from Facebook, but they're going to put it somewhere and they're going to let other people know. So having those bad experiences certainly outweigh the good. Surprisingly, we found that 94% of respondents overwhelmingly had a positive experience with their last brand. And that's a great sign for industry as well.
One of the more fascinating things is, and we've heard over the years how experience is becoming the number one factor over price or other features even. But in this survey, it definitely rings true. It sounds like people are definitely willing to pay a premium for better experiences.
Very much so, and I think this is, if I can look at the data in a different way, being championed by a lot of the telecommunications companies out there that are unbundling or uncarrying or unsomething their experience, and they are willing to pay more. They're willing to go on a plan potentially that offers a direct customer service line instead of a no human customer service line. So some really interesting models starting to emerge through that, but the brand reputation is the other interesting element when we look at these experiences, which is saying that about 72% of the respondents bought something based solely on that experience, or based solely on someone else in their network telling them about that brand and the reputation being, held up pretty high. So that is a change. That's a marked shift from previous generations, where you might have heard about it. It was a lot more advertising, in-home and out-of-home advertising. We're moving to a world where third-party referencing is super important. Influencer-based marketing becoming increasingly important, and that reputation for brands is, more important than it ever has been.
Yeah, so much so that just looking at this, it's kind of an unbelievable stat. 41% would be willing to pay an extra 6 to 10%. So if you're a brand that has created the right experiences, that builds the brand name, that creates trust, and that trust actually circles back around and allows you to have a longer relationship with customers. So it's kind of a nice circular way to look at it. You build your trust, you build your experiences. That builds the opportunity for longer engagement with customers, it sounds like.
Most definitely. And if we look at the app economy as an example of this, that's doing it really well. There's a lot of free apps now, and people are not willing to pay for that next icon that's going to sit on your home screen of your phone. But if they find utility out of it, if they have a great experience with that brand or that app, they're willing to throw a few dollars your way. And that increasingly with the app ecosystem has a level of support. So if you're just using that free version and you got some troubles, you're going to have to talk to the community forums to have your issues resolved. But if you provide a great experience, people are quite willing to give you a couple of dollars to have an engagement with you. And that is sort of flipping maybe some old paradigms on its head.
Very interesting. Okay, so in addition to this report, you also just recently put out what you're calling the Winter Innovations report or study. And one of the things that you said to me before we started recording, kind of in my sweet spot right now, you said that you're seeing the death of the IVR and the rise of the voice bot. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Certainly, it's a bold statement, but I'm very happy to make it. The IVRs are dead. It's a dead technology. Next purchases for most organizations won't be for looking for another IVR. They'll be looking for a voice bot that is on the cloud or is able to service their customers on multiple voice endpoints at once. So from a Genesys perspective, we've just put out our Winter Innovations for 2018, which looks at the tail end of this year and into the start of next, where we're addressing some of those concerns. Our major focus in the Winter Innovations is automation at work, and a bit of a play on words there. It's automation in the workplace. It's also practical use cases of automation in customer experience and also in the employee experience. So when we talk about the death of the IVR, it's not saying that consumers are not going to call you anymore via your 800 number. They most certainly will, but the way they will be serviced is with a voice bot, and they'll be able to say whatever they want to say to that voice bot that is powered by natural language and artificial intelligence technology that is able to solve their problem very, very quickly. And if not, it's going to give it to an employee with complete context, with guidance, and it's going to be part of the conversation even when it gets to the employee. And this is the somewhat scary, somewhat pretty cool technology as well, where the voice bots aren't just for the consumer anymore. These voice bots are equally for the employee in an enterprise. So you'll be able to ask your voice endpoint, whether it's a Google Home, Alexa, or some mix of someone else's. You're going to be able to ask questions that then help you solve customer problems. For someone in the contact center, that means surfacing knowledge in their CRM or on their workspace in real time. But for a data analyst in the back office, that might be walking up to a screen that's powered by Alexa and saying, show me the latest trends in marketing data. And it's going to be this multimodal experience of voice-driven applications in the workplace. And I think that's got a long way to run. Next couple of years are going to be fascinating as we dig into that.
And the other thing about voice bots, and I think it kind of even ties back into the previous study we just talked about, people want quick answers, they want accurate answers, they want consistent answers. And those all three kind of lend why I agree with you about the rise of voice bots. At least it allows, particularly I guess for the kind of frequently asked questions or frequently needed services, if folks can use voice bots to get those things quickly and consistently, that also frees up the agents for the more complex issues where, going back to the report, having a human and a phone and being able to interact in that way, gives agents more time to be able to do those things, while voice bots can handle the more kind of frontline things now.
I couldn't agree more. And I think you've nailed it in your analysis there. Beyond the simple FAQs, these voice bots are going to be able to take actions. They're going to be able to change your flight for you, right, just by speaking to it. But when that flight is full and there's no more seats left and you have to talk to someone, that bot is going to be helping that agent along the path as well, and it's going to be listening. So, these bots, the technology behind them, if I could dig into that just for a second, these are coming to an enterprise near you this year. They're also coming to a website near you, and to an Alexa near you, and a Google Home near you, and an 800 number near you. They're coming to a mobile app near you. And all of that is powered by some very common technology. We're at a point now where we can build these bots once and then deploy them in multiple channels. And that is something that is also pretty cool, because you can imagine having that, I don't know if you've probably flown with any of the airlines in the US where you've got Wi-Fi in the sky. One, amazing, right, by itself. But two, not great for voice calls, but okay for text. So if you can carry that conversation over from the start of your flight to the middle of your flight with that same bot that knows you on voice and text, it's a very new experience that we're crafting in customer engagement.
Chris, we talked about a number of cool things across a couple of reports. Where can people go to learn more about some of the things that we just talked about?
Genesys.com. Start there. It's your home for customer experience. There's a lot to unpack there. There's obviously your own website at Destination CRM as well. The Genesys.com site has some great reports like this. It's got the winter innovations. We've got some more sponsored reports coming out with MIT as well. They've done a study on our behalf with 599 enterprises across the world that look at applying artificial intelligence to the entire customer experience too. So certainly, unashamedly, Genesys.com is where to go. Otherwise, check us out on Google. I'm sure there's a lot to share with you.